tried to calm the area and calm the young people in that community that was just totally destroying the places where they have to live. And tomorrow they have to go to those same stores that they tore apart. And those stores that were burnt down and damaged are the same infrastructure that the people have to survive with in that neighborhood in the next month, the next 2 months, next 3 months.
Baltimore is under a state of emergency after riots break out and looting lasts through the afternoon, evening, even into the overnight hours. Baltimore City Public Schools are closed this morning. Several other city agencies are closed. And then starting tonight, a citywide curfew will go into effect. Good morning on this Tuesday, April 28th. I'm Patrice Sanders. Tom Rogers is out in the field. We're going to check in with him in just a few minutes. We've got several reporters out. Our team coverage will continue with Megan. Tom Rogers is out there. We've got Amber Miller and Larry Collins as well. Let's get a check of our forecast, though, starting off with meteorologist Shonda Myers.
Yeah, we're talking about some tranquil weather today. We're going to have some sunshine, temperatures in the 60s by this afternoon. So that's some good news there. 52 now at BWI, so light jacket weather with Inner Harbor at 53, Annapolis, you're at 52, some 40s coming in at Westminster and Columbia, so maybe the heater's clicking on from time to time. Otherwise, we're talking partial sun, winds a little gusty out of the northwest at about 13. Radar and satellite shows you some rain showers tried to make the trip in north and east of the city late last night, but they really didn't, and pretty much have dried out now. So sunshine coming back. Drop-off time at the bus stop, we're at 48, 61 at lunch, and 65 at pickup time today. A real beauty. Looks like we're going to hold on to that, well, at least for tomorrow, but thereafter, yeah, things could go downhill. I'll let you know when the next chance of rain is going to arrive in the forecast coming up in my Weather Authority forecast. And also, I'll be talking about the Orioles forecast hour by hour in my Weather Authority forecast in a couple of minutes. Stick around. Patrice.
All right. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Well, the magnitude of police presence was just not enough to stop the destruction and the looting yesterday. Police armed in riot gear methodically moved in on the crowds. You see the police there. They were trying to stop some of the disturbances that were taking place. Now, a block away from Mandelberg Mall, where the riots and the looting all started yesterday afternoon, this is what we saw. People were running into that shopping center later on in the evening. They were stealing clothes, stealing other items. Police tried several tactics to stop a group of teens who were throwing rocks at them and at the crowd nearby. Here's a little bit more of the footage of yesterday. This is what you saw on the streets of Baltimore. Police drawing their guns. They were trying to get some kind of order. It was not to be found yesterday. Just chaotic scenes. Several burned out cars you could see. Police say that people just set them on fire indiscriminately. There were police cars set on fire. There were police vehicles set on fire. There were civilian vehicles set on fire. The fire trucks were called in to start to put out some of those fires in the cars and in the buildings. The fire trucks ran into problems. We were hearing that their tires were being slashed, that the hoses were being cut, all where they were out there trying to battle what you're seeing there. Cars and vehicles that were just burned out. Police were doing what they could. Now, Police Commissioner Anthony Batts spoke out about the violence and the number of young people that officers saw getting involved. He also discussed the important role of the parents and the police.
These are our Baltimore youthful residents. A number of them came right out of the local high schools there on the other side of Mandelberg, started engaging in this. And if you saw on one scene, you had one mother who grabbed their child who had a hood on his head, and she started smacking him on the head because she was so embarrassed. I wish I had more parents that took charge of the kids out there tonight.
That mother in that video went viral yesterday. Well, both Commissioner Batts and the mayor addressed Baltimore City's curfew, which they say will be enforced today now that the National Guard is here to help enforce it. Unless you are heading to work or unless there's a medical emergency, a citywide curfew will be in place from 10 p.m. tonight until 5 a.m. this morning. That raises some questions about what happens with the O's game tonight. We're haven't heard word about whether that will go forward or not. Baltimore City schools, as far as today goes, they are closed for the day. Now, a CVS store in West Baltimore, you saw this a lot yesterday. The aerial images of it, the people running in, broke into that store. They looted it, walked out with armloads of goods and products. Eventually, that store caught fire. You see the flames just and the smoke just billowing out over the tops of nearby buildings. Damage very visible as it was happening yesterday, even more visible this morning. Megan Gillen is live out there at that scene, and she is streaming now to show us what is left behind of that CVS and the neighborhood. Good morning, Megan.
Yeah, good morning, Patrice. Good morning to all of you. You know, Patrice, you and I had talked last night and into this morning about we were heartbroken seeing our city look that way. And we look to politicians, we look to our leaders to try and explain this and to try and make us understand how this won't happen again. And joining me this morning, Congressman Elijah Cummings, this is your city, this is your hometown that you're now seeing.
This is my neighborhood. I live here, I live 6 blocks from here and been here for 33 years. Yeah, it's when I came out this morning, I just felt a lot of pain. You know, it's you know, when you see your surroundings on fire, when you see the CVS store, and I knew a lot of the employees that work there, and they come from this neighborhood, by the way. It's pretty painful. But on the other hand, you know what? I see this as an opportunity for us to bring about some significant change. I think, and by the way, this can happen in almost any city. I think you have a lot of people who, of course, were very upset about what happened to Freddie Gray. And I sense even at the funeral yesterday, and particularly as I was leaving, that people were on edge. And I think you had some people that just took advantage of the moment, opportunists. And but in talking to people, and that's one of the things I wanted to do this morning, get a feel for what people are feeling. It's a lot of pain.
Well, Congressman, that's what I wanted to ask you too, because here we are, you know, this is Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
We've got a long ways to go. This is far from over. How can we ensure these residents, this neighborhood, that this isn't going to happen tonight or tomorrow night?
What we can do is do what we did yesterday. That is, all the ministers came together. We met with the heads of the various gangs, and we tried to show a united front. When we marched down North Avenue and literally protected the police, and in other words, the police were coming up to the minister saying, "Thank you so much for coming," because we were able to get the folks who were stopping them from getting to the car fires. We were able to help them get there, and then we got to show that kind of force. We need to bring in the feds.
How did it get to that level? You know, watching, I saw you in the street last night with the clergy members, and it brought a tear to my eye watching that it had come to that point. How can we not get to that point again? Was our response too late? What should be happening? I
think it's easy to try to quarterback from the living room. I think that the mayor made the appropriate decisions at the time that she made them. But I've been out in the streets just about all these nights, and I think the mayor had a very difficult decision. Does she go in with a lot of force and escalate the situation that's already bad? People are already upset with the police. Or do you try to make sure that you have a measured response? And I think that's what she tried to do.
You've talked to this community. You were at the funeral. You're with everyone out here this morning. How are they feeling? Do you think that we can see this situation again? Are they still at unrest?
I don't think we're going to see this situation anytime soon. Because I think now people are getting it. They understand that we've got to do something. And a lot of the things that we have to do, the first thing we've got to do as elected officials, we've got to put a mirror up to ourselves. And we've got to listen to these young people and listen to their frustrations. We can't, I would never call them thugs. I would call them people, a lot of them are people who are in pain. And I want to be real clear. None of this is justified. None of it. And I have made that clear from the very beginning. You do not throw things at police officers. You don't burn buildings. You don't break into buildings. I don't care how old you are. You don't do that. There is a way to protest. But that protest has to be channeled into change. When you have the kind of things that happen here with the CVS being burned and the police being pelted, what happens is it's simply a distraction from getting to a solution. But we'll get there.
Congressman Cummings, thank you very much. We appreciate your time this morning. And as you look around, a lot of folks wanting to talk to him. People want answers out here, Patrice. They want to know why this happened, how we can prevent this. And as we turn around and show you what's left of that CVS, you saw the pictures of what it looked like last night as people were running in here and stealing everything they could, as Congressman Cummings said, possibly taking advantage of the situation. This morning, it's just a burnout shell of a building. Nothing there. What we have seen in the darkest hour are a lot of residents who do care and who have been around trying to clean up the pieces this morning. You see some of them with the brooms right here. These are city residents coming out here to clean up their streets, clean up their neighborhood, and try and make Baltimore a little bit different. And it looks as though, actually, Patrice, it looks like Governor Larry Hogan has just arrived at the scene as well. So we're going to actually send it back over this way and see what the governor has to say as he comes to look at this scene for the first time here this morning.
In order to deal with the issue of Freddie. But more importantly, you know, we care about our city, we care about our neighborhoods, and we're going to rebuild this neighborhood because we know that you're going to help us do that. Thank you for that. You know, but we've got to let folks know that violence is not the way. And I was so glad to see parents come out yesterday, because when I talked to the media parents, I said, would you tell your children, get your children and tell them to come home? And as you saw in the news, parents came out, and I want to thank that mother who showed, you know, sometimes you just got to grab your children and tell them that, you know, what is right and what is wrong.
We need a few more moms like that.
Yes, we do. But, you know, one of the things I'm asking parents to do today is to take children to go see Selma. Because then, you know, we talked about this during Black History Month. If you don't understand what our forefathers went through to give us the rights, the education, and all the opportunities that we have today, and we know that we're still not where we need to be, but we can get there. But we get there by working together. Thank you.
Well, we are going to work together, and you know, look, there's several things going on. The bigger picture, everyone wants to get to the bottom of the answers of what happened in this case. We support the people's right to get out here and protest and express their frustration and their feelings. But this violence can't be tolerated.
It cannot be tolerated.
It's not reflecting well on the entire city or on the effort and the concern about Freddie Gray.
Right.
I think the vast majority of the people in the city agree. I was so impressed with the volunteers here in the neighborhood out here at 5 o'clock in the morning, sweeping up, cleaning up their neighborhood.
I said thank you to one neighbor, and she said, no thanks necessary.
Yeah, well, I was thanking them. But we also are going to ensure that what happened last night does not happen again, because we need to make sure that people of Baltimore are safe. We're bringing in all the assets we can possibly find from all across the state. We've got the Guard activated. We have the state police. We're bringing in hundreds and hundreds of folks just to make sure we can keep the calm, that the city doesn't burn again tonight, and we don't get more injuries.
It won't burn tonight, because I can tell you what I've seen, you know, just today and yesterday. I saw the Nation of Islam, I saw religious leaders, I saw community people more importantly saying, you know, this is our community. We put a lot into building up Mondawmin Mall.
Right.
And so we need folks to understand these are assets in our neighborhood, but we also want our children to understand that we care about them, we love them, and sometimes when you're misguided, you do things the wrong way, but help us to help you.
Well, thank you, Senator. We're going to be meeting with some of the community leaders and faith leaders later today, and we're going to engage in a dialogue with them. But right now we're out here thanking the people for their help in cleaning up the neighborhoods, and we're out thanking the officers, the police and fire, who were out here all night doing a great job. I went last night, shock trauma, to visit the 15 injured officers and thank them for their service. Prayers go out to them as well. And you know, just to the citizens, we're going to let them know it was a terrible, unfortunate situation, and we got called in and we immediately responded. We're going to make sure that this does not happen again.
Governor, what do you think when you came through here this morning?
Well, you know, it was devastating to watch all of this happening last night. We opened up the Emergency Operations Center when we declared the state of emergency, so we were watching film of everywhere of everything that was happening, and had a pretty good understanding of it. Today, I was frankly pleasantly surprised. Number one, that we had got all the fires under control, that there was no violence out here yet this morning, and that the neighbors were coming out and pitching in to volunteer to clean up their neighborhood. The other thing I was impressed with is that you know, we had to mobilize hundreds of guardsmen and hundreds of state police and people around overnight, and they're all out here on the streets already this morning. We've got hundreds more people. The city is already safer than it was before, and we're going to continue to build that presence all day so that we don't have violence this evening.
How can you ensure that? How can you ensure the safety of these residents who are watching right now, wondering if this is going to happen tonight?
Well, we're bringing in hundreds of state troopers and hundreds of other police officers from around the state, and potentially thousands of National Guard. And we're going to ensure that we do everything possible that we're not going to allow violence to continue.
How long will they stay here, though? We know this is far from over.
We'll stay here until it's over.
Yeah, but this is a call. There's a call out to the community, too.
Governor, we'll come out and say, Governor, how are you doing, sir? I did get you from Fox here.
All right, you were just listening to Governor Larry Hogan there. He was speaking with Maryland State Senator Catherine Pugh about what he is seeing and what they would like to see happen as this day moves forward. That should be and hopefully will be much different than what we saw yesterday. We're going to be right back with more coverage coming up after the break. 8:16 is the time. You're watching Fox 45 Morning.
Do you believe that? And if so, what more needs to be done to reach out to the people in the young community who came out here, destroyed the building that you see behind you?
All right, the mayor has just shown up in West Baltimore. Let's listen in to what she's talking with the community about.
Who knows how hard we fought to get a CVS to invest in this neighborhood and to destroy it when this is the only place so many people have to pick up their prescriptions. They do health checks here. We just announced a major health initiative with this CVS, and to take that away from our community, we know, everybody knows we have a city with great needs, and there are many that are struggling. What happened last night made sure that more people are struggling and that more people have needs, and those needs are going to go unmet because of what was destroyed.
Mayor, we know you're a native of Baltimore. You love the city like so many other people do. But a lot of residents we talked to were looking for leadership, wanted to see you sooner, wanted to see you earlier. Mm-hmm. We know that you had a lot of behind-the-scenes work to take care of. What's your response to those folks who say she didn't move fast enough?
And I will say that, you know, I wish I could be 3 different places at once. Everybody knows there's an operational response that had to be done. The situation evolved very quickly and required my direct attention, and I gave it my direct attention. And when we were in a space where I could come and give a briefing, I did that. I understand that you know, when you have a 24-hour news cycle, it's never soon enough. But I can't shirk my responsibility to do the work of being mayor and responding and managing the crisis as it unfolds.
Mayor Rollins,
one more, guys.
We're wondering too. There were warning signs. There were people that had tweets about this early in the afternoon. Why wasn't there more precautions put in place to take that seriously?
We took it very seriously, and we had platoons deployed at the location where we knew the incident was going to take place starting in the morning. We had a very aggressive strategy. What happened was we had splinter groups that went in every different direction, and it was a different, it turned into a different incident, and we worked to respond on the ground in real time. So it's not that we didn't have people there, it's just that...
I guess the concern is, what if that happens again?
We have additional resources, and we'll continue to bring in the resources that we need to make sure that we're managing it.
But in retrospect, Mayor, did you move as soon and as fast as you could have in retrospect? Now that you have time to sleep at least a little bit and think about it, did you move as quickly as you should have?
So I understand that from the outside, you don't know, you can't see everything that I see. You don't know all the different moving pieces. I know that in order for me to respond, I have to do the work. While I have an obligation as the chief spokesperson, I also have an obligation as chief executive, and that work needed to be done. We work very swiftly, and it's a very delicate balancing act when we have to make sure that we're managing but not increasing and escalating the problem. And you know, I think there will be a time to talk about all the different things that were going on, that we were responding to, but at the end of the day, it is very important that we respond to the situation as it was on the ground. You know, there's always going to be armchair quarterbacks that have never sat in my seat, that see things differently, but this isn't the first emergency that I've had to deal with, and I know that you have to put in the work and manage the crisis on the ground, and that's what we're doing. Mayor, what's your expectation today? What's your expectation today?
All right, you were just listening to Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake, still defending this morning the response time that it took for some of the resources to get in place and for her to come out and speak about it. She once again says she did what she needed to do, and that we're just hoping that it doesn't happen again today. All right, coming up after the break, we're going to talk with Dr. Ben Carson, get his take on everything that is going on here in Baltimore. 8:24 is the time. You're watching Fox 45 Morning. We have Dr. Ben Carson joining us on the phone right now. He is in Sarasota, Florida. Dr. Carson, good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, you call Baltimore home. You've been here, you've lived here, you've worked here. You see what is happening in Baltimore right now. Give me a little bit about your perspective, your thoughts on what's going on.
Well, obviously the death of the young man, there's some suspicious circumstances, and I think that's been admitted. And obviously, as a neurosurgeon, I can tell you healthy people don't develop injuries like that from a van ride without seatbelts. But that's going to be investigated. That's not going to be swept under the rug, and people have to realize that these things don't happen instantly. But, of course, people are very angry, but, speaking from personal experience, as a young man who used to be very angry and get into violent confrontations, violent reactions to anger seldom are helpful, and these only provide a reason when we have these kinds of things occurring across the nation for militarization of police forces across the nation and antagonize community and police relationships. We don't want that to happen. The 36 years that I spent in Baltimore, I had so many interactions with police, most of which are very, very fine people, and you certainly can't characterize all police by the actions of a few, just like you wouldn't. If you had a bad reaction with a plumber, you wouldn't go out and say, let's hurt all plumbers or teachers or doctors. That makes no sense whatsoever. And the neighborhood people, have a lifetime of effort, some of them, in their stores and the various businesses they built up. And that's destroyed in a few minutes by agitators who frequently aren't even from the neighborhood, don't care about the lives of the people they destroy, and they are just manipulating people and hurting their futures. And this is a message that should be coming from parents, grandparents, and guardians.
Dr. Carson, we saw a lot of youth out there yesterday, and some of them said we're out here because of Freddie Gray on his behalf. And a lot of people said, no, this has nothing to do with Freddie Gray. You are just taking advantage of a situation. But on the other side, a lot of people are defending them to an extent, saying, yes, of course, what you did is wrong, but we understand your frustration. We understand why you are upset. We understand that you don't trust the police. And this is a scenario we've seen played out across our country. In Ferguson and in South Carolina. Now, we've talked about you as a presidential candidate. This would come under your realm. How do we begin to solve the larger issues that we're seeing nationwide, not just here in Baltimore? It's in our backyard now, so we're really feeling this, but it's a much larger issue.
Well, it is a much larger issue, and, it requires strong leadership to help people understand, first of all, that injustice will not be tolerated no matter where it comes from. And, you can't just say that. You have to make sure that you demonstrate that. And I believe that will be demonstrated in this case. But we also have to get people to understand that justice does not occur immediately. The thing that is most likely to occur immediately is injustice, because you have mob rule. You don't have rational thought processes taking place. We need people to really begin to talk about that and help people to understand the implications of their actions and recognize that most of these individuals who are creating the havoc, they're not the people who live in those neighborhoods. They're not the ones who are going to be suffering. People have got to stop allowing themselves so easily to be manipulated.
All right, Dr. Carson, we appreciate you calling in this morning. Thank you so much.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up, we're going to have more team coverage. We're going to take a look at what is happening out there today. What is the new plan as we go forward? 8:30 is the time. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Welcome back to Fox 45 Morning News. 8:32 is the time. I'm Patrice Sanders. Tom Rogers is out on assignment along with Megan Gillen, Larry Collins, and Amber Miller. We're going to check in with our team of reporters in just a few minutes. Let's get a check of our forecast, though. Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is here.
Yeah, the real bright spot in the forecast, or in our newscast, really is our forecast. A lot of sunshine today, and a beautiful day to start, beautiful day to finish, too. Let's see what's going on. We've got 52 at BWI, 53 at the Inner Harbor, Annapolis. Now you are at 52 degrees, Westminster 48 at Columbia, and we're talking about some partly sunny skies now at the harbor. Winds nice and fresh out of the northwest at about 13. Radar and satellite shows you we had some showers. They tried to make their way through the area. Just the air too dry, just blew them away. And the clouds now clearing. So your commute forecast as we head through the afternoon hours as folks head home from work and kids head home from school. 10 a.m. will go to 61, 2 p.m. temperature 65, mostly sunny, and 67 at 5 p.m. So any morning clouds getting out of here. Actually a very nice end to the day. And it looks even better tomorrow if you like warm weather. We'll tell you when we could hit the 70s and how long we'll stay there in a couple of minutes. Now we've got our very own Chardell Moore standing by on a busy morning with Traffic Edge.
Hey, Jonathan. I heard the magical word, warm weather. That's what I'm talking about. Now, top side of the Beltway, speeds are clocking in at 55 miles an hour. This is what you can expect at 695 and Belair Road. This has been our trouble spot. We're stop and go all the way to White Marsh Boulevard. You'll also will experience some brief congestions between Charles Street and Perring Parkway. Along the west side, approaching Wilkins Avenue, we're stop and go. 70 at 29 is shaping up nicely. Now, if you're traveling in around downtown Baltimore, our main roads are not that bad. 895 northbound towards the Harbor Tunnel. 395 is also well. But inside Baltimore, we're also experiencing some delays in West Baltimore. North Avenue is also stop and go, as well as Pennsylvania due to the riots. That's your latest look on the roads. Patrice, back to you.
The family was very clear that this was a day of sacred closure in the funeral. So for us to come out of the burial and walk into this is absolutely inexcusable.
It was a violent day that turned then into a violent night all across the city. At least 15 officers were injured. At last check, 2 of those officers still recovering from their injuries. Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake spoke yesterday afternoon about the difference between the overnight violence we saw last night and Saturday afternoon's more peaceful protests.
It is very clear there is a difference between what we saw over the past week with the peaceful protests, those who wish to seek justice, those who wish to be heard and want answers, and the difference between those protests and the thugs who only want to incite violence and destroy our city.
The mayor has put a citywide curfew into effect starting today, meaning that no one can be on city streets between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. except for health emergencies and work. If you head downtown this morning, you are going to notice an increased presence of law enforcement agencies. Amber Miller is streaming live from the Inner Harbor with a look at what is going on there. Good morning, Amber.
Good morning, Patrice. It is a very hefty increase indeed. If you want to take a look to my right, we're right along East Pratt Street, right at the Inner Harbor. We have state troopers. It starts across the street from McCowden Square and makes its way down East Pratt Street. When you get right behind me, you're going to see the National Guard, and we have one of their armored trucks right beside me here, the National Guardsmen. They are standing watch here. And then even further down, we have the Natural Resources Police, and I've been told they're about 200 members strong this morning, as I said, starting across the street from McCowden Square, making its way all the way down, they say, to the Hard Rock Cafe, lining East Pratt Street. So as you said, if you make your way downtown this morning, please expect an increase in law enforcement presence. Now, we have been told that they are expected to be in place right here at the Inner Harbor, at the Galleria, at the mall, for the duration of the day. And they say their goal is to keep downtown safe, to keep people who work in this area safe, keep people who visit downtown safe, and obviously to keep our visitors safe who are in town this week. We're also told this is not the only location where they are in place this morning. They said they have strategic places around the city, but this is just one of those places where they're standing guard, keeping watch, making sure everything stays calm and everyone remains safe. Patrice?
All right, you expected that you would see more beefed up security down there. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the baseball game tonight. I know that we're waiting for some word on whether or not they'll still have the game, whether they'll move it to D.C. So just something else to take into consideration, Amber.
Just one more thing to think about with us bringing in so many people into the city. As you said, Patrice, I was watching our coverage last night. Obviously, everyone was watching, eyes glued to the screen. Bruce said there is a great possibility that all the games will move to D.C. and they won't have any more here in Baltimore. I believe that was something that they were milling around yesterday, but hasn't been confirmed. So we will have to see how that goes.
All right. We sure will. We'll be waiting to find out and report that as soon as we do hear something. Amber, thank you. Well, coming up, former FBI agent Tyrone Powers will be back in our studio with us to talk a little bit more about everything that has unfolded. 8:38 is the time. You're watching Fox News. We are back with law enforcement expert Dr. Tyrone Powers talking about everything that unfolded yesterday. We just heard the mayor this morning, and again, she is still defending or having to answer questions to people who continuously ask about the response time. Why didn't we do something sooner in terms of bringing in more support? And why did we not hear from her sooner yesterday when all of this unfolded? Would it have been better? I know she has behind the scenes things to do, as she was saying. She was handling the situation. Did the city need to hear even something brief from her? I'm here, I'm on it, we're going to get through it, and then go back to work?
Yeah, two things. They either needed to hear from her or they needed to hear more from Commissioner Batts. We saw that when we had the snipers, Muhammad and Malvo here. We saw Chief Moose out of Montgomery County constantly coming out. He was in the command center, but he would constantly come out because part of the relaying fears, the psychological part of what you're dealing with whenever you have a riot or an uprising or a crisis like that, is that people need to hear that somebody's on it, that we're doing something, that we're in communication with someone. And that is as important as going back and doing the strategic things. The mayor's not really an expert on policing and crisis issues. So while she has to be back in the room and get some direction, she has to delegate that to the people who are experts on that. And I think that's what the people are saying there. And strategically, again, based on what happened here on Saturday, people are saying, well, you know, where's some planning? Where's a conversation on Sunday? Where's some more outreach? And even, and again, the response to this particular thing up in Mondawmin, the planning has to be in place. You don't want to show like your overwhelming force that you're making it a police state, but on the other hand, there has to be strategic planning, and we have to be in that mode now, too, unfortunately.
Do you think, very much so, but do you think there was no planning going on behind the scenes from the protests we saw Saturday into what we saw yesterday?
I don't think there was enough planning. I think last week, Joy interviewed the commissioner and asked him, did he anticipate a riot? And he said, no, there haven't been one since 1968. Right. So that indicates part of the psychology of that. So preparation is not paranoia, so you can prepare, you can have plans in place, you can call up people, you can put them on alert. This might happen, even if you don't show the overwhelming force.
You say we even need to be in that planning mode now. So in addition to the National Guard or things that have been put in place, what more should we be doing to prepare for whatever could happen?
Well, now you have the federal government in here, so I think planning is going to be better because behind the scenes, without them specifically saying it, you have the FBI talking about when the release of the report is going to come. They're talking to Marilyn Mosby about her investigation, even though there are 3 or 4 different investigations. Those conversations are taking place, so planning is going to be a lot tighter now, with or without City Hall, because this is a national and international crisis that's going on, and they are anticipating that no matter what the results are, whether you indict, whether there's a report that holds Baltimore City culpable, that there's going to be some kind of response to that, and they're going to be prepared this time, even if nothing happens.
Right. Okay. Dr. Powers, thank you so much for all of your coverage yesterday and for being with us again this morning.
Thank you.
Coming up, Jonathan's going to give us a look at the temperatures that you can expect when you get out there today. We are continuing our team coverage this morning. Tom Rogers has been out in West Baltimore just surveying the area, seeing what is left behind out there after yesterday's riots. We've seen stores that have been looted. We've seen people out there cleaning up. The goal is to get ready for today, is what I understand. Good morning, Tom. Tell me what you're seeing.
Good morning, Patrice. Yeah, CJ and I, a photographer and I, have been driving around. We saw a large fire truck when we approached this intersection. We stopped because they saw they had to ladder up. They were behind this CVS on Franklin and Evergreen, and they were just pumping water into the top of it. We want to show you what this CVS looks like. We're the only ones out here. Some glass company and an ATM guy just showed up. There's some CVS personnel that were here, but they just stayed in the parking lot. Now, CJ's going to walk you in here. There's a lot of shards. Glass from the front entrance here, water from the fire crew, and just bear with us, because as soon as we walk through this soot and this particle board from the walls here, you'll see where the fire crew had to cut through again this morning. They were out here last night at 9 o'clock. CJ, if you can, take a look over to the left here of the camera there. You see That's where the roof is caving down. Let me walk you through. CJ may be able to see the steps here. They're going through water. CVS seems like it's completely intact except for obviously all the fire damage. The looting really occurred in the back of the store. I was able to walk through there. That's where you saw the pharmacy that was.
All right, we're going to try and get back out to him. Just amazing to see the inside of that CVS that yesterday was once just a vibrant store, and now today it is not. We're going to continue our team coverage after the break. 8:52 is the time. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News All Day. During yesterday's violence, multiple celebrities, many from Maryland, responded to what was going on. Here's a look at what many of them had to say. We have Tory Smith, who wrote in and tweeted out, Baltimore, this isn't the answer. We've got John Wall out of D.C. says, come on, Baltimore, let's band together. Oh, there we go. For peace, violence isn't the answer. Hashtag prayers up. We've got Rev Run, who just sent out prayers for Baltimore. Montel Williams, hashtag Baltimore Riots. He says the sick thing is the whole world was on Freddie Gray's side in face of police cover-up. Ruined the goodwill in one afternoon. And that is part of the concern for people and especially his family. We've got Russell Simmons. He tweeted out several things. He said, to law enforcement in Baltimore, remember, these are not just our children. They are your children as well. Please show constraint and be peaceful. He went on to say, I'm catching up to the news coming out of Baltimore. This is bad. Sending my prayers to everyone in that beautiful city. Holly Robinson Pete says, praying for Baltimore. This is so rough. And poor Freddie Gray's family. Then we have Justin Forsett here with the Ravens, who says, violence is not the answer. Lord, give this city a peace that only you can give, a peace that surpasses all understanding. Hashtag Baltimore. And that pretty much sums up what we are in need of. Well, coming up, we have crews out all across the city who continue our team coverage this morning. We're going to check in with each of them as members of the community get out there and begin the cleanup. We're also going to check in with Jonathan to see what Mother Nature has in store for us today. 8:56 is the time. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.